Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into a massive clash of economic worldviews. So, it all kicked off recently with Amazon founder Jeff Bezos doing an interview on CNBC, which immediately triggered a fierce backlash from progressive media commentators, people like Hassan Abi and the hosts over at The Young Turks. But listen, this isn't just everyday internet drama. Not at all. We're talking about a fundamental battle over the future of your taxes, your job, and really, how our entire society operates. Let's jump right in and see how two completely different perspectives look at the exact same economic reality. You know what's really fascinating here? If we strip away all the political noise, both sides actually agree on the basic premise. Jeff Bezos openly admits there's a stark economic divide right now. He straight up acknowledges that while a certain group of people are doing incredibly well, a whole bunch of others are seriously struggling just to pay rent and buy groceries. So, the existence of inequality, that's not the debate. The fierce, absolute disagreement lies entirely in who is to blame for it and how we actually fix it.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, a tale of two economies. Then we'll hit the tax debate, government versus corporate efficiency, subsidies and systemic influence, the AI horizon, and finally, we'll synthesize it all.
Starting with part 1, the tax debate and how to solve this financial strain. Okay, so Bezos argues that if we want to immediately help working people, the government should just zero out taxes entirely for the bottom 50% of earners. Boom, done. But progressive critics, they push back hard on this. They argue this is basically a strategic smokescreen. To them, it's a deliberate PR maneuver, a slick way for billionaires to win over the working class with the promise of a tax cut, all while quietly protecting their own massive stock portfolios and making sure the public doesn't demand higher taxes on the ultra-wealthy. Now, Bezos anchors his argument in raw math. The top 1% already shoulder roughly 40% of all federal tax revenue, whereas the bottom 50% contribute a tiny 3%. He uses this really vivid analogy of a nurse in Queens making $75,000 a year who pays over $1,000 a month in taxes. To the massive machine of the federal government, losing that 3% is basically a rounding error. But to that nurse, keeping an extra $1,000 a month, that's breathing room. That means paying off debt. It is literally life-changing. But hold on, because here comes the progressive counterpunch. Critics say, let's look at the immense scale of wealth growth at the very top. ProPublica data shows that between 2006 and 2018, Bezos' own wealth exploded by a staggering $127 billion. Yet, because he reported only a tiny fraction of that as actual taxable income, his true tax rate on that massive surge in wealth was an estimated 1.1%. So you might be wondering, how on earth does a multi-billionaire pay a lower true tax rate than a nurse in Queens? Well, commentators like Hassan Abi point to a completely different set of financial rules for the ultra-wealthy, often called the buy, borrow, die strategy. It works like this. Instead of drawing a highly taxed traditional salary, wealthy founders can use their massively appreciating company stock as collateral to take out incredibly cheap, tax-free loans. And since loans aren't classified as income by the IRS, they bypass the progressive tax system entirely. Critics argue this essentially creates a parallel, untaxed economy for the elite, making a total mockery of that 40% revenue statistic Bezos cited earlier. And when billionaires avoid higher taxes, critics argue the entire country pays the opportunity cost. They point to wealth tax proposals, like the one from Congressman Ro Khanna, to highlight exactly what that missing revenue could actually buy us. We are talking about guaranteeing a $60,000 minimum salary for public school teachers across the board, expanding Medicare, building 7 million affordable homes. To the critics, while Bezos champions a 0% tax rate for the working class, his own avoidance of wealth taxes starves the system of its ability to provide these concrete, transformative safety nets. Moving on to part 2, government versus corporate efficiency. Who actually solves problems better? Bezos argues that the fundamental issue in America isn't a lack of tax revenue at all. It's actually a government skills issue. He points straight at the New York City school system, which spends an astonishing $44,000 per student. I mean, that is vastly more than other major cities, yet the system still struggles with shockingly poor outcomes. He contrasts this kind of bureaucratic failure with Amazon's corporate methodology, where massive logistical problems are tackled with rigorous root cause analysis to fix inefficiencies permanently. He even jokes that if Amazon were run like the government, your packages would take 6 weeks to arrive, they'd probably contain the completely wrong items, and to top it all off, you'd be slapped with a $100 delivery fee. His core argument here is that vilifying millionaires is just an age-old political trick. It's a convenient way for politicians to distract you from their own fundamental inability to execute and solve real problems. But critics? They argue this vaunted corporate efficiency is a total mirage, a mirage that is quietly propped up by the exact same government billionaires claim is so incompetent. While Bezos champions corporate self-reliance, commentators argue that major corporations systematically offload their true operating costs straight onto the taxpayer. Let's break down exactly how critics claim this happens. First off, they point out that private giants rely heavily on the government-funded U.S. Postal Service to handle the unprofitable last mile of rural deliveries, essentially subsidizing their shipping networks. Second, they argue companies like Walmart and Amazon sometimes pay wages so low that their workers are forced to rely on government food stamps. Just think about that for a second. Your tax dollars are literally subsidizing the payroll of a multi-billion-dollar giant. Third, critics cite intense corporate lobbying designed to kill popular social safety nets like paid family leave simply to protect corporate profit margins. And finally, they argue these giants intentionally operate at a loss with predatory pricing just to bankrupt local mom-and-pop competitors. So we have two completely polarized views of our present reality. But what about the future? Will rapidly advancing technology like artificial intelligence bridge this economic divide, or will it simply pour gasoline on the fire? Which brings us to part 3, the AI horizon. Is it a utopian bulldozer or a creative job killer? Now, Bezos is incredibly optimistic about AI. He really pushes back against this growing fear that AI is going to come in and replace highly skilled human jobs. Instead, he offers a pretty powerful metaphor. He says if human labor up to this point has been like digging a basement with a shovel, handing a worker AI is like giving them a bulldozer. It's not meant to replace the human. It's the ultimate lever to elevate human ingenuity and problem-solving. And following this logic, Bezos predicts a near-utopian economic shift. And his claims here are massive. He believes AI will create such profound productivity gains that core goods, like food and housing construction, will actually deflate in price. Think about that. He's predicting that AI will create so much wealth that a family could comfortably survive on a single income again. Instead of mass unemployment, he's actually predicting a labor shortage. He even envisions AI instantly solving that government inefficiency we talked about earlier, like cutting housing permit approvals down to 10 seconds. But as you might expect, the critics see a much, much darker reality unfolding. Commentators like Hassan Abi argue that rather than taking over menial, backbreaking labor to free up humanity, AI is currently being deployed to automate the things humans actually want to do. As the progressive critique goes, we aren't lightening the burden of the labor force, we are literally serving the machines. And the ultimate irony, critics point out, is happening at Amazon right now. They are currently testing AI to generate custom, on-demand podcasts. So instead of this utopian future where robots do the heavy lifting in warehouses while humans write poetry and host podcasts, the dystopian reality is that humans are stuck doing the physical, menial labor while the AI gets to do the fun, creative work. And finally, part 4, synthesizing it all and weighing these worldviews. I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. When you look at the modern economy, which reality are we living in? Are ultra-wealthy founders the true engines of innovation, unfairly vilified by an incompetent government that just wants to tax their success? Or are they the root architects of systemic inequality, utilizing loopholes, lobbying, and PR to mask how heavily they rely on the very public infrastructure they refuse to adequately fund? The source material gives us deeply passionate arguments for both sides. The next time you order a package or look at your tax return, ask yourself which reality you see. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep exploring these absolutely crucial economic questions.